Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, it feels like deja vu all over again. Another hearing on the Republican tax law passed 9 months ago. Another attempt by Republicans to convince their constituents that they are better off because of that law. But there is a problem. Despite White House promises, working families aren't better off. And another hearing is not going to change that. Wages are stuck. The typical worker's hourly wages after adjusting for inflation were lower in August than they were a year ago. What has increased is the cost of this tax giveaway. When Republicans passed the bill last December, the estimated cost was $1.5 trillion with a T dollars. Today it stands at $1.9 trillion. It was a massive waste of resources when workers could least afford it and when we should have been investing in our people and our communities. Most working Americans have been treading water, with middle-class earnings stalled for years. The typical man working full-time year-round earned less in 2017 after adjusting for inflation than in 1973. While earnings have been stagnant or shrinking, the costs of childcare, of housing, of education have climbed higher, with student loan debt exploding in the past decade. We'll hear today that we just need to look at different inflation measures or use a different survey, and then everything looks fine. But telling people across my state, don't worry, you're doing better than you realize, won't make it easier for them to pay their kids' college tuition. It won't help them get health insurance or treatment for addiction. Even as those in the middle class work harder and harder to make ends meet, those at the top continue to reap large income gains. Between 1980 and 2014, the top 1% saw their pre-tax incomes grow by 204%, while incomes for the bottom 50% remained virtually flat. And with passage of the Republican tax bill, the gap between those at the top and everyone else is likely to grow significantly wider. Part of the challenge we face is that we need better, more timely economic data to help us craft smart, forward-looking policies. Knowing in real time who is actually benefiting from economic growth and who is not is key to designing new policies that generate growth which benefits everyone. Along with Leader Schumer and some of my JEC colleagues, I have introduced legislation that instructs the Bureau of Economic Analysis to start reporting on new income growth indicators. These measures would show how incomes are growing at different levels of income, painting a clearer picture of who the economy is actually working for. We also need a sustained effort to lift the working standards of working families, to help workers chart a brighter course for themselves and their families. We should invest in programs that reward work and help Americans prepare for 21st century jobs. Increasing the value of Pell Grants so that a college education is within reach for more students is a good place to start. I have a proposal to expand Pell Grants for students across the country. In New Mexico, the increased grant would cover the full cost of tuition at all of New Mexico's in-state colleges and universities. Let's expand the Earned Income Tax Credit so that work pays better and more families are able to afford the basic necessities. We should have done that in the Republican tax bill. Rather than turning the clock back again, allowing insurance companies to deny coverage to those with pre-existing conditions, as the Trump administration is trying to do, we need to build on recent gains to make health care more accessible and more affordable. We also need to be smarter about how we use our nation's fiscal resources. After squandering $1.9 trillion on the tax bill, the House is preparing to vote on the Republicans' Tax Plan 2.0. This legislation would add $3.2 trillion to the deficits from 2029 to 2038, bringing the total cost of their tax policy above $5 trillion. And remember, the majority of these costly tax breaks go to the richest among us. I don't think we can have a hearing on living standards without asking ourselves, what will happen to the quality of life for tens of millions of Americans who count on Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid if Republicans add literally trillions to deficits and then turn to these programs as their piggy bank? The consequences would be disastrous. I look forward to the testimony from our witnesses and a little healthy debate, Mr. Chairman.